Hey guys, today's interview, we're reviewing Dario, one of our reality mastery clients, and I can tell you this guy's one of the most dedicated clients. The interview begins with him talking about how he has 70 pages of notes, and I can tell you it's the most neatest thing I've ever seen. But Dario basically shares how when he joined the program, he got an identity shift. And as a result of that identity shift, his company tripled in profits that year. And not only that, he was talking to his accountant, and his accountant was like, yeah, dude, you made more money this year than you have in the last 6 years combined. So I hope you enjoy this interview. There's a lot of golden nuggets that Dario shares. So let's jump into it right now.
I started and I went through the whole program taking notes. I have about 50, probably 70 pages of notes. Okay. But the interesting thing about it is that if you notice, I don't know if you're able to see, this is how, look at my handwriting and the neatness when I started. Okay. This is my first page. This is something that freaked me out. And this was my last chapter. It looks like a different person. Like a different person, it's all
highlighted. It's way different.
It's so much neater, and the handwriting is neater, and it's so that's something you guys might want to explain to me because I didn't figure out why that happened.
An identity shift. You shifted your identity from someone that wasn't organized to someone that does that.
But I always been organized in my life. I am, but on this thing, I really noticed that the beginning of the notes was written. It's still neat. It's still tidy because I write, but I don't write. I write the American way, so not in the cursive, whatever you call it. Anyhow, but it really changes. It looks like it's a different person at the end, even if it has the same style of writing. But it's just different. But anyhow, that's something you guys can work on that and explain to me that another time. But I just took a lot of notes. I would stop the video, every concept he Quasi would speak about. And a lot of things I wrote them twice because then he would give you the worksheet and they were written down there. But at least for me, hearing it, writing it myself, expressing Quasi's words in my words, saying the same thing, but in my way and writing it down, for me, it helps. And still to this day, sometimes I might want to reread. I read my notes another 2 or 3 times. It's easier instead of going through the whole thing, and then it's your notes, so you know exactly. And again, it's more than 70 pages of notes, so they were pretty detailed. But that helped me a lot to absorb in the concepts, and a lot of things I didn't even need to. I still remember them, and I haven't read it for at least 2 months now. So that was my technique, but that's very subjective. It was just the way I'd done things that worked for me.
So what are the results that you achieved? So what are the things that now, like, where are you at right now that you've gone through the program? How do you feel? How do you think things have changed for you?
Okay. The things changed in a way that for now, and again, it's pretty soon in the process, and I'm sure this is going to go further and further. And it is easier to go further and further when you start getting results. I realize that because you have a whole different. Now you're like playing it on the other side is my interior self that is kind of like looking back at the ego and say, what do you got to say now? Something like that. But you don't have to do it too much because then it backfires you. But the ego is pretty strong. It's a pretty tough guy to deal with. But in the 3 months in the quarter, 4 months that we usually is our highest producing quarter, that is from May to September, we basically the net profit of basically tripled. Obviously I'm not going to give you the exact numbers for privacy.
That's fine.
Because we have offices in 2 different states. London is out of the EU, and so it's a whole tax issue. But it tripled the net profit of the company, the actual profit, not of what we make. And I was when I started looking, usually, I was seeing that things were going in a different pace. But then when there's a lot of work, especially during those June, July, August, September, you don't really have time. You just kind of get the feeling of what I know. I've been doing this for a long time. I've been running the company. I opened the company in 2007, so I've been doing this for a while. And I was sitting there. I'm like, this is having a different dimension. Looks like. But then I was like, oh, there you go again. You're trying to,
Exactly.
you're trying to put in your head that you're doing this. Now you meditate in the morning. Now you do the courses. Now you do this, and that's why. So I'm like, I'm not going to look at them until I need to, because. And then when I did write the post was, I think, end of August or beginning of September. I don't remember. And we started wrapping up. And I went through everything, and I spoke to my accountant, and he's like, bro, you made as much money that you've been doing the last 6 years.
Wow.
Well, that you ever did. And I'm like, what do you mean? He's like, that's what I said. He threw me the emos over, and he's like, this is what you made. And and I said, I don't know what happened. I said, well, I might know what happened, but
Yes.
I'm not gonna explain it to my accountant because I think I'm crazy. So he's an accountant. So, but the numbers resonate even to him. And I spoke to Quasi about it just when it was happening on a live Q&A. And obviously the question I asked him was, what now? Is how can I keep this up? And I think he answered me in a way that it's very smart, as obviously he knows the matter. And he said, you might not be able to keep it up right like this, but in the long run, it's going to keep on growing. If you did this quarter and you made this much money, that doesn't mean the next quarter, even because we're going into a much lower quarter, but even next year, let's say we don't do as much, that doesn't mean that the following, it's still growing. And
exactly.
So you have to be smart enough to I think celebrate this. I mean, at least that's the way I'm doing it. I'm celebrating this win, and there might be going to be some other losses. I had so many that now I would have to acknowledge a loss much worse than what it used to be. It's been many losses in my business career. And now if it happens again, that doesn't mean, then the program doesn't work. No, because it happened for the 10 years prior, and it's going to happen again. It's just that if you keep that pace, you're still going to have up and downs. You're still going to have problems. But at least if you draw a line of all these up and downs, you're still going in a upper side direction. And I think that's the way I want to see it. And I think that's the way it is for me right now. And I'm just happy for a lot of projects are growing right now. The moment we're speaking, the last 2 weeks, many things came up that I was not expecting, especially one that just came out of the blue, and it was unexpected at all.
Yeah.
And so you just have to stick to that kind of attitude and keep that mood up. You have a bad day, let it be. And the next day you just go back trying to be positive and stay on this kind of run and pace. That's all.
Yeah.
I mean, I can tell you.
Yeah, I love hearing that. I think a lot of people now that are probably hearing to this specific exchange are probably like, how does he keep that mindset up, right? Like, how do you keep that mindset up by knowing, oh, I might not make it next year, I might not do, like, because when you have that high, you want to remain on that high, right? Like, just like you asked
Quasi had told me a line in that call that really stick with me, and I think for me it works. I'm not saying that I don't think it applies to everyone, because you need. And I'll tell you what it is in a second, but I don't think it depends even on the character you have. I'm a very courageous businessman, and I'm not saying this in a cool way. Sometimes I've been doing very stupid things because I just like to go into trying things, and I don't sit back. But I always kind of battled through this, Sometimes it's like, oh, maybe I'm making a mistake. I should be a little more conservative, keep the money and don't invest it in every other, because I have other businesses that I've been creating aside with my core business. And Quasi in that call said, if talking about trying to keep that mindset and trying to keep that pace and that positive attitudes, is play on offense, always play on offense. And that for me was like, yes, that's exactly me. That now that someone else told me, I'm good to go, because that's all I needed to hear. And and I think that, and I just got a credit card today, and I had a stamp on the credit card, play on offense. This is how it resonated with me. So yeah, I don't know how smart that is, but so again, not everyone has that character that maybe this line can apply, but I think the sense is that it's just play your cards and try to play them the best you can, and just keep on playing.
Yeah.
and play in offense in the sense of play positive, stay positive. Don't be affected on things that happen to you, but you affect things to happen.
Exactly.
And if they go wrong, well, they'll go wrong. They might have gone wrong anyhow. So might as well try.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Those are powerful words. I feel like a lot of people will resonate with what you just said. And I just like moving into this, like the last bit of this interview, I wanted to ask you, so if you were to be able to talk to someone that was in your exact same position before you started the program, in your exact same kind of like not hitting the ceiling, having all these years of ingrained beliefs, all of these things, what would you say to them if they're hesitating to join a program like reality?
I would just tell them to try. I just tell them to try. And you probably know better than many other people that you deal with so many different people that join the program, and you know how many different approaches mentally, and how our brain is just so different from person to person, that it's very hard to have the audacity to tell them what they should do. But all I feel like saying is, if you're not happy with what you have, just try to change it. Yeah. And you're not going to change it by sitting home in the couch. My process was, I didn't start it from watching Netflix to get into on Thursday and get into Quasi's course on Friday. It was a process that I got interested. I started to understanding what it was about. And then I said, well, I have to try this, because it is, if I don't try, it's not going to change. Exactly. And if people are worried about a lot, I know this. I'm bringing this up because I know a lot of people. I'm not like that in a good and a bad way, but a lot of people say, well, you know, I can't afford it. I got to spend this amount of money. What about if it doesn't work? And to be honest, in the beginning, I thought the same thing. I'm like, whoa, you know, it's a lot of money, and what's about this thing is it's not going to work, or not more. I wasn't worried that it was not going to work. I was at that point, I was worried that it was even real. That, you know, that
like, does this actually work?
Yeah, exactly. And then I started thinking, well, how much money I throw away, me especially. I got 300 pair of sneakers. Seriously, I got 300 pair of sneakers. And I sit back and I look at my wardrobe, they're right back there, part of them. And I'm like, there's tens of thousands of dollars in your sneakers. And so, you know, fuck that. Just pay the money and try. If you're willing to try, the only thing I think is, first of all, you got to be 100% sure you want to change. You want to change something.
I agree.
Because if you're not convinced of changing something in your head, you're wasting your money. No matter what you do, no matter what course you do, no matter where you go. So first thing, you got to clear up your mind and say, I'm not happy with what I'm living, or I was happy, but I want to try to change it and make it better. And again, that was probably a winning point, because I was not needy to change it. I could have done pretty well anyhow, not as well. And I have to mention my life changed not only on the business side. I sleep better. I have better relationship. I used to be a guy that snapped a lot, and I still do a little bit, but much better than before. My relationship, I'm in my second marriage, and it was a good relationship already, but it got much better in overall. And I'm not trying to be now saying, oh, you do this, your life is going to be perfect. I think one thing fits into the other. When you start feeling in a way satisfied, in the other hand, you releasing a lot of stress, you kind of letting go of stuff and saying, well, you know, you have a different approach. And when you have a different approach on, especially for men, I think, and I'm not trying to be sexist, but we're much more limited than women. And for us, a balance of the life, it stays on a lot. It deals with how successful you are and what you do. And if a man his job is doing fine, a lot of other things are going to go much better in his life, because he's going to have a different approach.
Yes.
Women usually are a bit more, you know, I don't want to, well, they're better than in handling all these different things. Men usually, if they have a bad day at work, or it's going to reflect the family.
It's going to bleed into everything.
Yes. So this is the bad end, but on the good end, it happened to me the opposite. So, well, exactly the same thing, but in the opposite way. So when things start going in a certain way, in my business, and I started seeing that was getting better and better, I relaxed. And again, I still have bad days, but overall, my quality of life got better in general.
Yes. Yeah, no, that's something that's it's really great that you brought up as well, just like with the personal life aspect, because it's the way you do one thing is the way that you do everything, right? The when you change the root, all the stems that come out of it change as well. So with your personal life, you were saying that now your relationships are better. I bet your communication is better on that stuff. Just quickly, could you say anything in your just aside from business that has been good for you now that you made this identity shift, basically?
Oh, definitely my relationship with my daughter. I have a 13-year-old daughter that I adore, like I think every dad. I have a very complicated, to be nice, with my relationship with my ex-wife. And it was very hard to navigate. And it was very hard to navigate. And obviously that reflected even on my relationship with my daughter. And I'm not saying that I had a bad relationship with it, but it was a little more complicated.
Yeah.
I was always worried about the pressure, the peer pressure, the influence that my ex-wife, because she lives, obviously, I travel a lot. She on a day-to-day basis, she lives with my ex-wife. So I was always in this bad place where you're thinking that everyone is conspiring against you, and I was spending my nights thinking, oh, what is if we had an argument over the phone, or what is her mom is telling her, and this and that. And that changed. I don't have that problem anymore. I don't even think about it. I still have arguments with her because she's still the same person.
But your way has changed.
Yeah, I'm much more relaxed. I figure out different ways to deal with them. I just don't now. I don't give importance. I don't answer when she goes off. I just don't answer. Don't answer message. Don't answer the phone. And and that in a way changed even her, because now she figured out that when she's pissed and she's trying to reach me, she's not going to reach me because I'm not going to be available.
You have
So
your boundary.
now she's learning that she wants to get things done. She got to contact me and tell me things in a different way.
Yeah.
And that obviously reflected then the relationship with my daughter. It's much more relaxed. I don't have any bad thoughts about it. I'm happy. I see her very happy. I see her happier, probably because I'm different, and she feels, she doesn't feel that friction anymore, that as much. And divorced kids are always going to have that problem of dealing with both of the parents. But that definitely changed, and my relationship with my second wife changed. It got much. She's a tough woman, a great woman. I love her to death, but she's tough. And at some points it seemed very hard to communicate at times, and that was something that helped a lot, because I stopped blaming her on anything that happened. I always start not blaming, but I'm saying, okay, it's me. It's me. I came here already. Even if apparently I didn't do anything and she snapped, I'm always going to try to say, I'm sure it was something that had to do with me as well.
Yeah.
And that thing started. Yeah, we still have arguments, but they'll last 2 minutes, and 5 minutes later, we're just fine.
Yeah.
And we don't have those harsh, long arguments that you go to bed pissed off, and that they will drag them on for the next 2 days. Well, she will. I won't, because I'm a man. we have 5 minutes there, we're cool. But so all these things, let's say in the normal problems that every person has in a life, in the different aspects, but pretty much the same way, you just get easier in general. You're still going to have them. You're just going to deal with them differently. They're gonna stick with you much less. They're gonna drain your energy much less. You start learning how to shrug your shoulders, like, okay, whatever, and suddenly you realize that whatever can be miraculous, and it just, things get much easier.
Yeah. No, yeah, I really love how you were able to weave that in, like the personal life and the business part. And it's just such a beautiful testament to someone that has had so many ingrained beliefs, as you said yourself, was able to be open, then change them, and was able to bleed all those results into all these different areas of their life. And I'm really, really glad that we were able to have this interview today, because it was even enjoyable for me to listen to all of your advice and to listen to all the stuff that you told me about how all the process went and the things that changed for you and how your mind started to open up and all those things. It feels really inspiring to me, and I will really say that. And I think it's going to resonate with a lot of people that are going to be watching this video as well later. So thank you so much. And thank you so much for joining me today. It was wonderful.
Oh, it's my pleasure, and I hope that my experience can help someone out there. And as I said in the post, you know, whoever's going to be listening to this, I'm 47 years old, and if I could change very strong ingrained beliefs from a very tough. I grew up in a very, especially for the line of business I do. It was on a military range, and it was. I mean, the discipline and what they teach you is very extreme. So if I could change that, I think anyone can. I'm very sure of this, of what I'm saying. And whoever is not going to change it is just because he's not willing to. Because again, if I was able to do it with all, I'm not going to go through all, but just I had a very, very tough grow up, very harsh beliefs ingrained in me. And they've been with me, and I kept on doing this job for so many years that if I could do it now, I mean, anyone can. So they just have to stick to what you guys tell them to do, find their own way to navigate what you guys tell them to do, and just do it.
Yeah, beautiful words, beautiful testament to people that will be listening to this and will resonate, because I think so many people need to hear the words of just do the work, be open, just, you know, be available to the knowledge that can come and flow into your life so easily if you allow it to. If, as Dario said as well, if you want to change, you'll find a way to do it. No matter your age, no matter your race, no matter anything, you'll find a way to change it. And I think you're just such a good example of that. And I would love to thank you again for joining today's interview. Thank you.
It's been my pleasure.